Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change in your life. I'm here to guide you, inform you, and hopefully help you to triumph over trauma and the long list of symptoms that come along with it. This podcast series is to bring knowledge, share stories, and open up conversation around hope for those of you that suffer with the difficulties that present themselves in your life, from diagnosed or undiagnosed trauma. Labeled or not, I know you need help, and so do those that have graciously taken the time to have these conversations with me. So let's get to it. Welcome to the week, Change Gang. I'm so happy to have Jelena Jovanovic back with us. We had a wonderful conversation once before, and I'm super excited to have her back. She is an amazing person who is a clinical hypnotherapist, therapist as well, and she's under Intrinsic Therapy, or is it Intrinsic Therapy, Intrinsic Therapist?
Intrinsic Therapy.
Intrinsic Therapy. And she's come back.
You know what? I'm not even sure now.
That's okay.
Because I switched a few times, yeah.
Look for both and you'll find her. But we talked a lot about your journey and some of those things. Thanks for being here again, by the way, Jelena. I so appreciate you having another conversation with me. And so we talked a lot about your story and kind of how you came into doing what you do and the emotional base of a lot of what you went through in that. And for those of you that have not listened yet to that episode, please go back and find it because it's really interesting and fascinating. I think a lot of people will connect to that because they'll understand having the emotions and not knowing what to do with them or not acknowledging them and just trying to push away things that we don't want to feel. We don't want to acknowledge. We don't want to be sad. We don't want to be angry. We don't want to be okay with the fact that we were hurt by someone or any of those things. So we hold on to these things and also have so many things going on in the background with our subconscious where we've created these little parts of ourselves along our life that are deeply trying to protect us, but also want to come into our awareness, want to come into that acknowledgement. And until we do, it's kind of going to end up wreaking havoc on our life somewhere along the way. And you talk a lot about that in some of the work that you do. And I know that you're doing some particular work around the emotional scale and that role in decision making and things like that. So I'm hoping that you'll share a little bit about that with us today.
Yes, definitely. When I was introduced to the idea that we are constantly operating from the place on that emotional scale, it was a foreign language to me a little bit until I said, I felt fearful. And then you realize when you are fearful, the fear creates intention, what you're going to do, say, behave. It's unconscious intention, but still you have no choice. And whatever you think you know about situation is offered to you from that place of fear. Whatever is above the fear, hope doesn't exist when you're in fear. When you accept that you're fearful and when you accept that you are in that space, it's very important not to act from that place. Accept and let's see what's going on and bring, as we talked, awareness. And awareness will bring you up to the emotional scale because the fearful emotions will subside. And once you're going slowly up and when you are on the place of hope, the world doesn't seem to be the same anymore. You don't make the same, you haven't got the same thoughts to begin with. The emotions are different and the drive to do things and to say things is completely different. And you can go up and up and up and up to the point of joy. And then it's a game that it's not really often known to us. But once we get there occasionally, it's amazing. So this is what I mean when I say emotional scale. We always make our decisions and behavior either being conscious of where we are, what is the essence of what we feel and what we think. When we are one, when we bring the essence of that, we know in which direction we are going to move. While we are fearful, shameful, we can't. We don't have control. They take control over us and they do whatever they want. So either you are in control of how you feel and what you think, or they are controlling you. There is no place in the middle at all.
When you talk about an emotional scale, I'll tell you one of the things, because I've shared it before, is a picture that comes up, and I think it was from Abraham Hicks that shared it, where it's almost like an hourglass, where it shows these, or a ladder, you could say it's a ladder, I suppose, too, where it shows the really difficult emotions kind of in the bottom. And then it comes up to this kind of middle place where you're okay. And then it goes from there to the good feelings. And oftentimes people who are down at this very low spot in fear, in shame, in guilt, in these things that are way down here on the bottom, they see absolutely no way. How can I ever feel joy, which is at the top of that ladder? There's no way I can get there. And oftentimes when I talk to people about that, I tell them, you don't have to be there tomorrow. Let's get to the next step, the very next step up. And it might be from horrible to really bad, and then going from really bad to bad. But if you're making the progress and able to even just creep up, you find yourself eventually at that even spot. All right, I'm okay. And then you lean into, wow, I kind of feel good, and then happy, and then into those places of joy. So is that the emotional scale kind of that you're talking about?
Absolutely the same one. Relief is the name of the game. As long as you are moving emotionally and feeling relief, or mental, whatever you are saying to yourself can bring a relief, obviously, and does. And just a small amount. We can't get, even if we want, from shame to joy. It's not possible, absolutely. It's not known in the space like that. I studied polyvagal theory for a while, and then I realized, yes, this is exactly it. The function of the nervous system, the reaction when in danger that created 500 million years ago, and when you freeze as a species, and then going up and rest and digest. This is the aim. From freeze is the bottom. When you're in that shame and guilt, and you are freeze, you are completely helpless, and you are in that frozen space. And then fight and flight is a little bit more responsive, if you wish, way of how the nervous system reacts to what's going on around us. And then going up the emotional scale that we talked about is about actually going into the rest and digest place of the nervous system, which is intrinsic to the human beings. The danger is gone. I'm going back to my normal self.
I think within PTSD and CPTSD and the trauma that kind of comes into our life, if we're looking at it in terms of sometimes being on that emotional ladder, even though we think that we've climbed up to this space of being okay throughout our life, and maybe we have come up to a space, there comes a point where that other part of us that was hurt when we were 2 years old or 7 years old, or back in the time when we don't even realize, that part almost comes out and takes control of the body, because it does, and lets go of that ladder in the space that we're at. And we go plummeting down to a space that we don't understand, that we don't even know why we're there. It's like, what happened? Why am I even in this space? And think of this little tiny 2-year-old who's down there. They're at that very base of emotion, and that's the only way they know how to express themselves, is through those very base emotions. And they're difficult and they're hard, and they don't have an understanding of how to change and manipulate them, which is where oftentimes hypnotherapy comes in, going into that subconscious, having that conversation and that awareness, and gathering that part of yourself that brought you down here to say, you're okay. We're going to care for you now. We're going to take care of you. Come in, and it kind of reintegrates back into yourself to be able to allow it to come in and grow with you at that point and mature with you to the point of understanding those feelings and being able to start climbing that ladder again. That's a little bit of what I see. Does that make sense to you, or did I say it in the wrong way?
No, absolutely. I totally agree, because I'm not saying this is the God-given truth, but so far my understanding and understanding people who deal with the same issues is that it's all about safety. 2 years old in us doesn't feel safe, and 2 years old, the feeling and everything that lives in us thinks that we are still 2 years old, and there is no place to be safe. Searching, but you can't, because you see everything as danger. And I think in hypnotherapy it's much easier to go to that place, to that time, to that space inside of you, and kind kind of, as you said, lead and upgrade the child, saying, it's okay, you are safe here and now. You were not safe when that happened, when you were born or 2 years later or whenever you're in your childhood. But it's not that time anymore. We are not living in that moment. That's the difference, that actually realizing that is kind of waking up the emotion kinds of, oh, really? No, we're not, we are safe now. And again, relief. When you feel relief, you know that you moved on. Maybe some other situation will bring that feeling again, but at least you know what that is. But I have to say, sometimes, even if you deem yourself healed from complex PTSD, life serves situation that brings you in a state where everything can come back to you. And I recently found myself, although the awareness is much bigger and everything, and I decided that particular event and whatever I was going through, let it have it. Let it run through me. Nothing will happen. And because I can't stop it right now, in the middle of that, the momentum is there, and I just let it be. And once it's gone, then you can take control. Sometimes it's not even possible to take control because it's so strong.
And think about that little 2-year-old who doesn't know how to navigate or know that they're okay. They're just scared and alone and crying. Or even think about a teenager who has had something happen and they're angry and upset and they're going to lash out and have all of those things that are there. But by bringing the awareness and the acknowledgement and the integration of those parts of ourselves back in, we bring those parts up to the emotional age of being able to cope and know, oh my goodness, okay, here comes that situation or that person or those feelings. And I don't have to panic and I don't have to lash out because I have a more mature emotional base to reach into and go, I don't have to react to you. I can continue on. I am safe. I know I'm safe. And I think that's where the huge change comes into play for people who have any form of trauma, labeled, unlabeled, I don't care what it is. If you're having those symptoms and they come into that space and it's like, it doesn't mean that you're not going to still be faced with some of the situations. You're going to react and deal with them in such a different way. Because you do have that ability to self-regulate at that point, to respond in a way that is reasonable, that is okay. It doesn't mean that you might not have some anger in there or sadness or any of those emotions. It just means that they don't balloon and take over everything in your life. Tell us about, have you had anyone that you've worked with that you've really seen the processes or the outcome of the work that you do? I'd love to have you share a story if you're willing.
Oh, yes. You know, while we were talking about safety issues, one particular client came up to my mind. She lived under a huge amount of stress with her mother, who was an alcoholic, who was actually torturing her mentally and a little bit physically as well. Punishment, black cupboard, going to really sadistic moments, which we uncovered under hypnosis. And she was on that journey of recovery. She left home as soon as she could at the age of 18, but never found a way. She would be okay for a while, like a week or two, and then slip back into the old fears and panics. And when you just listen to your client, you can see, you can hear issues they've got. She kept telling me, but you don't hear me what I'm saying. You don't hear me. You don't hear me. And I knew, okay, she's not heard, because if she keeps saying that, although I can hear her clearly and I'm saying something that makes sense, she's not able to understand that she's been heard. And safety. I walked once around the streets with her and she would look, at people around us with really lack of safety. She was looking who is going to attack her, who is going, and she told me that she's got a knife and stuff like that. And I know that she had huge safety issues. And we had a session and we had another one. Yes, certain progress, but something was missing. And in the middle of I'm not sure whether it was the second or the third session, clicked to me that she is doing everything from her head. And I said, okay, whatever I said, are you processing what I'm saying, what we are talking about mentally, or you can feel it in your body? She was going mentally, of course. I said, okay, we know now why we can't make any progress, because the body and mind are completely separate. The body is processing, but mind wouldn't have it. The other way around, sorry, the mind is processing, but the body wouldn't have it. The body is staying in alert, but emotion doesn't live in mind. The emotion lives in your body. And I said, go to your body, go to your body. So we repeated everything. And at the end of that session, she was completely said, wow, I never experienced anything like this. And I realized it's because, and there are clients like that, because it's so painful to be in their own body, they just check out. They just don't want to go there. It's painful. They don't want to experience. They're just avoiding it. But once and because I was there, because it was under hypnosis, she felt safe to process it. I don't think that ever I had words written to me like the words she gave me after that, the testimonial that she gave. I'm a little bit I had to edit it a little bit because it would feel like I'm a miracle worker, which is not the case, but I'm helping, and the clients does the work. They do the work. I'm just guiding them. I understand that, but that's how I know that's how she felt.
It feels like magic sometimes, though, doesn't it? It feels like somehow magic happened.
Exactly.
And it's just like, wow.
What is going on? What was going on in the year that followed? I can't even begin to tell you. She made her own business. She changed her life and turned her life upside down from that point onwards. I mean, we had a few conversations after that and kind of mentoring sessions, but she didn't feel the need to go into hypnosis anymore because she was able to deal, understanding that you are dealing not only with your mind, but you're dealing with your body at the same time. And you need the two aligned in order to move on.
That's so great. And it is so interesting. I think there is a separation. Sometimes there's separation, our body, our spirit, our mind, kind of all three, where it does feel like it would be too much to bring them all together. But when we do that, when someone is in a state of hypnosis, it allows them to process at that subconscious level. And the subconscious knows what to let that person be aware of and what not to let them be aware of. So oftentimes you'll have someone going through the session with you that will remember things that they've gone through. And then there's people who will not remember anything, that sometimes they fall asleep, which is perfect because we can still talk to the subconscious from before you were even born. There's information in your subconscious and it's got it all filed away where it feels like it's keeping you alive and safe. And so it's doing its job. But in order to totally bring and integrate all of those parts of ourselves back together, sometimes there does have to come that awareness, that acknowledgement, that pulling out of the file that's in there. And thankfully, we have the ability through that hypnotic state to do it in a way that it might bring some things up, but it's not going to crush you because your subconscious is still helping you always. And I think there's some people that have that awareness and struggle a little bit as they're going through the process where they have the emotions come up and it's like, I'm kind of not feeling good today, or I'm having all these memories show up today, but it's never at a way, so far that I've seen anyway, or heard, that it takes them to a place of not being able to manage it. It's all stuff that they are able to process and manage. And I think at that other level, the stuff that is really painful or really so much that's there in that process of reintegration is being done in the background by the subconscious. And it's giving us what we can manage along the way. And sometimes it might be a whole lot of nothing. And that's okay because the work is still being done.
Whatever that has the relief, even when we meet our feelings on a conscious level and bring the awareness and we going up, if you wish, on an emotional scale, we give ourselves tiny bits of relief. I think that the subconscious does the same thing, maybe on a bigger scale during hypnosis, because I think under hypnosis we can take more because the awareness actually is much higher than we can do during the time where we are awake. But still, it would be probably really big stress for the body and nervous system to release everything. So I think the subconscious mind is very aware what is safe to open to give you. Okay, deal with this now. Let's process. Now it's time to get this. And that's what I meant when I said breakthrough. Actually, I did fall asleep. Prior to the session for a week, I felt so much sadness to the point that I couldn't breathe with the sadness. And I told my husband, I really can't take this anymore. I really, really can't. That session just took it away. I fell asleep. It was gone. I woke up 3 hours after the session. It's gone. Never came back. So yes, we give ourselves what we can to experience relief, and then in hypnosis, subconscious gives us, but I believe that it gives us a little bit more, and that's why it's faster.
And you said that you kind of didn't want to say too much because you felt like it would make you sound like a miracle worker, but I think that we're not the miracle workers, the subconscious is. We're just the guide that's allowing your subconscious to do that miracle work. And it is miracle work because, like you just said, oftentimes, time and time again through this process, you'll see people who all of a sudden come up out of one of those sessions that just say, oh, it's different. It's different now. It's like this switch has been flipped and life is never going to be the same from that point on. Gratefully in a good way, it's going to go forward. And it's through those steps because we don't know. We're just the guide. We're showing them, here's one way, here's another way, here's another process, here's something else. We're showing them the mind almost, hey, which one is really going to make the difference for you? Which one do we need to move into to help this process go along? And your mind knows where those things are that need to be addressed. And so as we move through those, whichever one it is that comes up, it's fun to have them come up and say, wow, I don't know what happened, but it's all different now. And to see that experience and to experience it yourself, even. I think so many of us that are working in this have experienced that moment too. Oh, wow, something's different. What is it? I don't even care. And I don't think anybody else that's in that cares. It's different. And from there on, it's like you cleared the sludge, you cleared the way, you got rid of the old stuff that you no longer need. And it's like taking this breath of fresh air after you've been in the muck and the water and not able to breathe for so long. And you come up and go, wow, this is so cool. And sometimes that's a gradual process for people. And sometimes it's like, boom, that instantaneous moment. But there is always change through this process.
There is no question about that. I used to think that no great result in a sense of no breakthrough, that was not successful session, but I don't think that anymore. It's simply not true because you cannot go into the process as one person and not to come out slightly different, even slightly different. But different.
Sometimes it's big difference. I know through this process, especially some of the people sharing stories with me as I talk to them. And of course, the person who started the Beat Treat protocol, Sarah, has shared a lot of her stories with the people that she works with. Sometimes it's even people will come off of medications. They'll completely step away from addiction. All of that happens in these processes. And it's incredible to see how the body responds to that subconscious mind. But what a lot of people don't understand is the subconscious is what's regulating and allowing and moving the body. It's breathing for us. It's processing all the hormones and chemicals and everything to keep us going. So why wouldn't it be able to just go, oh yeah, let's start producing that chemical, the melatonin or the serotonin or the hormone that needs to regulate your weight a little bit better or the hormone that needs to do this or this or this. Why wouldn't it be able to do that? It's already doing that. You also work with people, and you and I talked about this a little bit outside of this conversation, about the emotional connection and the subconscious connection and all that to addictions. And of course, that comes along often with trauma, with PTSD, with CPTSD. Do you want to talk about that for a minute, of how you've seen that show up and how that works into some of the things for you?
Well, you just said it, didn't you, about as a result, when someone goes through the protocol and comes out without the symptoms and the addiction is gone. They don't drink anymore. They don't take drugs anymore. This is what I mean. I think it is in different words. Maybe they don't have PTSD complex, but they have issues where they don't feel enough. They feel they don't matter. Whatever unmet need they have. And every time when they presented in life with the challenge, with the situation where that belief, that unmet need is present. I think I was smoking my unmet needs. I was shopping my unmet needs at some point. And now I realize that recently I'm eating a little bit. I never used to snack. I started snacking and I'm thinking, what am I snacking? What am I feeding? And then the first time I was aware and present and I said, okay, I felt uncomfortable. What am I uncomfortable about? I'm about to stretch. My belief is challenged here. It's about self-growth. It's about me wanting to do stuff, but I feel small and I suppress and I want to hide, and imposter syndrome kicks in. And I just want to go away from the book that I'm reading, that it's telling me that, and I go to the kitchen and I start snacking. I said, okay, we know now what we are feeding. Okay, what that emotion actually needs. That emotion that I was feeding with, dry figs, not potato chips, but nevertheless, I was feeding it with something wanted to be recognized, to be acknowledged. If the imposter syndrome I had, as sometimes comes up again, wants something, some sort of soothing. So I am either soothing with food or giving it what it needs, which is, okay, I recognize you and we are actually okay. We are not worse. We are not better than other people. We are who we are. So let's celebrate who we are. Then, okay, I don't need that figs anymore. I don't need whatever is in the fridge anymore. We are happy now. That's what I mean by, but it's the same when we go to the hypnotherapy, and when the root cause of the problem is done in age regression or wherever we're going, we don't need to do that anymore. This is bringing awareness so we can do it either. Some people refuse to go. I have clients that I'm working with, they don't want to go into hypnotherapy. They are so afraid losing control. And I'm working on that first now so they can deal with that part so they can help themselves faster, actually.
I'm going to have to do a whole show on like myths and hypnotherapy, because losing control or not being in control is like one of the biggest myths, I think, that holds so many people back from hypnotherapy, from hypnosis and doing that. The thing is, the patient, the client, they're the person who is in absolute control. They always are the person in control. We're the one that's just guiding them through the process. They're the one who can at any time come up out of that situation. They can become totally awake in any moment when they need to, if they need to. They can stop the process, continue the process, allow the process, not allow the process. They're the ones in control. And we're just helping to find that path that they need. It's like they're lost in this jungle and they can't find the path to get where they need to go. And we're simply saying, if you come this way with us, we'll show you the path. And that's all it is. They can say no, they don't want to come along the path, but we're never going to, in any state that they're in, we're never able to drag them into what it is. They are in control. Glad you said that, because that needed to be said, that the client is the one in charge always.
Always. It's theirs. It's not even ours. We made it our job to understand how mind works. We understand so many things. So we are able to, as we said earlier, to guide them and give them options, which option they're going to take entirely up to them.
What is that old saying about leading a horse to water, but you can't make them drink? Like, here's the whole lake. Come on, you could have a good time. Just dive in a little bit and enjoy. We won't let you drown. I have to agree with you so much. And people don't realize that it is sometimes as simple as an unmet need. The emotions that we feel, the things that we turn to. Food was an excellent example, because it's so often something that nobody even connects. Why they're snacking, why they're eating the cake, hiding their eating, what it is. There's unmet need of some kind in them, with drinking, with smoking, with drugs, with all the other, sex, all of those things that can become something that we lean into a little too heavily, even if we don't want to use the word addiction. Maybe it's just like, and I hear people so many times, I'm kind of drinking a little more than I need to, I think. And it's just like, okay, what is the unmet need? Let's find out. And oftentimes it's not about sitting and talking about it for 4 years before we find out what that is. Let's go in within a couple of weeks and find out what that is and clear that and address it and fix it, because we don't need you to suffer for the next few years. We need you to be living the life that you want to live for those next few years. Let's do that instead.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with me, Jelena. I so appreciate it. I love your viewpoint on things. I think you have such a heart for helping the people that you're meant to help. And I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing in the world. Why don't you tell people how they can find you so that they too can come connect with you, and those people that have listened today, and everything will be in the show notes so they can absolutely go to that. Go ahead and let them know.
Jelena Jovanovic is an Intrinsic Therapist, I think. I will check. I still haven't checked. My website will be up soon, so I'll be able to share it. I've got Instagram page. page, and I've got my email that I'm going to share with you. So you can, if you wish, share with your viewers and listeners, and Facebook page with the same name. And that's about it. It's about helplessness. It's about complex PTSD. I'm working on my program of self-regulation. I think I will make it group program because I think it will benefit more people at the same time. And that will come probably January, February. And that's all about me.
That's great. I love that you work individually and you're going to be working with a group, because I think that sometimes we do need that group connection to just be in that energy and to kind of lift into that healing that's going to take place for everyone in that. And you get to help a lot more people that way too. So good on you.
Teaching them to self-regulate the same way of awareness, everything that we talked about during those 2 episodes and 2 chats that we had. When we teach people to understand what's going on and what to do about it, when they come into hypnosis, they will be able to move even quicker, right?
Yes. I love that. Absolutely. Okay, Change Gang, I hope that you move off into a wonderful week and that this has been some information for you that you find as fascinating as I do. I hope also that you will meet me right here, same time, next week. Ciao. I hope today's episode was interesting and helpful to you in some way. If so, find someone to share it with. Maybe it will help them too. If you'd like to know more about anything discussed here today, you can find all the places to connect with me and the guest speakers in the show notes, or go to lauraordile.com, LauraOrdile.com, and you can reach out to me there. Until next time, ask when you need help, be kind to yourself, and have a happy day.